Chapter 11. I haven't felt this bad in a long time, I would say. In short, I need to drink less and stop doing things that usually lead to me calling Saryoga and ending up in this speaking state again and again. Although no, it's more like lying down and dying. God, at least give me a heads up next time, Potap. I'm not exactly your go-to fixer. I opened one eye in surprise, then the other. I was still in my apartment, but I wasn't alone. Squinting, I tried to figure out if it was Saryoga or someone else. I'm not a hallucination, if that's what you're wondering. You drank yourself into oblivion yesterday. It doesn't matter. I had to, like any decent ex. Drag you home. The only thing I didn't do was hold your hair, you princess. Thank God for that. And you didn't just ditch me like you usually do? He snorted and admitted honestly. Because I live in a rented dump on the edge of town, not in a fancy 3-room apartment with a jacuzzi and a fully stocked fridge. It's purely practical, Strelnikov. Consider it payback for your 6 months of ignoring me. Huh. Well, at least he's honest. I even felt a little guilty. Because real friends don't behave like that, and I truly had shamelessly forgotten about Saryoga and his colorful life, all buried under work. I offered you to come work for me. And I suggested you think 10 times before even bringing that up. Tired of your business already? I shrugged. My head was pounding, but even in this state, I was ready to take a risk. The only problem was that Saryoga would never agree. A hostage of circumstances, he couldn't leave the city, but living decently here wasn't allowed either. And anyone who tried to help got crushed along the way. A real mess, to say the least. This is too complicated for your brain in this condition. Better tell me what was the occasion for yesterday's party. Didn't I tell you? I was surprised. I'm not exactly great at keeping secrets when drunk. I looked at my friend, who, by the way, looked as if someone had asked him why his shirt didn't smell after a run. What a surprise. I wasn't going to play coy like a freshman on a first date. I croaked out in the voice of a chain-smoking starlet. I hooked up. Saryoga burst out laughing. So hard that I nearly saw sparks fly out of my eyes. My head was splitting, and he was putting me through this torture. Finally, he asked, "Since when does that warrant calling me and getting wasted? Or is sex once every 6 months now something you celebrate?" Not funny, Kochevnikov. It's because it was virtual on some damn geek website. Saryoga, who clearly knew his way around my apartment, choked on the coffee he had made for himself this morning. I wouldn't be surprised if there was breakfast waiting on the stove, too. My friend could do it all. So could I, but not like him. He spilled the aromatic drink, cursed, and looked at me with such a comical expression that for a moment it was even fun. But only for a moment. He asked, "Are you serious right now?" Yeah. Yesterday's behavior was completely out of character for me. I appreciated well-groomed beauties, quality, passionate sex by mutual agreement without any hassle, and other pleasures of life. Rubbing my nose bridge, I simply explained, "Last night I caught my idiot IT guys doing something inappropriate. In the middle of the night, these geniuses hacked into some girl's computer through a relevant website, secretly turned on her camera, and were trying to convince her to show her breasts. And you, of course, being the boss Robin Hood, decided to take the boobs from the smart and give them to the bosses?" For the sake of my signature glare, which usually made employees' blood freeze, I opened one eye. Saryoga didn't even flinch. On the contrary, he was looking at me mockingly, clearly holding back laughter. I just wanted a distraction. And why didn't regular porn suffice in that case? I shrugged. I couldn't explain it. Not to him, not to myself. But I still had the image of that freckled, embarrassed face in my mind. Admitting that I had fallen for a stranger at first sight during our first, experiment was unacceptable, so I replied, and this from a man whose escapades are legendary. Seryoga, don't act like some moral crusader. He didn't. He quietly went to grab a cloth to wipe up the spilled coffee. I, meanwhile, reached for my phone to assess the damage from being late. Not only would I have to grab my IT guys by the scruff of their necks, but I was supposed to have been at work an hour ago. As if to confirm this, the screen lit up and I saw my secretary's number. Damn, the candidate. I'd completely forgotten. I was already not liking him, which I knew was terribly unfair. Gathering my strength, I answered the call in the most stern voice possible. No need for subordinates to know the details. Yes, Amalia? Amalia nearly choked. Intimidating subordinates was in my blood, even in this state.
Potap Markovich, sorry for interrupting. The candidate has arrived for the lawyer position. I don't know what to tell him. Damn, the candidate. I had already decided I didn't like him, which was probably bold of me. Mustering all the strength I had, I replied, "Let him wait an hour. The work meeting ran over." Yeah, the meeting that'll probably sense a mile away. But I didn't care. Consider it a test of stress tolerance and professional suitability. Okay, I'll send all the details to your email. I'll let him know. And the secretary hung up. Immediately, a file arrived in my inbox. She deserved a bonus. Well done. Automatically, I opened it and stared at a slick musclehead. The moment when I was certain I'd reject him, but professionalism wouldn't let me do it outright. How had I missed this information earlier? My fault. Oh well. I'll chat with Seryoga, recover a bit, and interview this Igor Kafelnikov. Hopefully, no surprises.
Chapter 12. So, my little experimenter, how did it go? Did you like it? Come on, show me what you've learned. Igor called in high spirits, but I was confused. What should I say? That I tried it and liked it? Or should I pretend that I lost that bet? Or whatever you want to call it. Lily insisted that I should put him in his place, that I shouldn't let this slide, and that I'm a complete fool for not standing up for myself. But it's easy for her to say. She's not in my situation. So, why are you silent? Answer while I still have time before my interview. Their local boss is running late. I can already tell we're going to get along. He laughed, and I realized I just couldn't have this kind of conversation right before something important. Igor had been telling me how much he wanted this job. We live in a small town, and you can count the top legal positions on one hand, especially in a young, successful firm like this one. Igor had been buzzing in my ear about it. He'd dreamed of this job since he finished university, and now he was probably very nervous. I hope it all works out for you, and as for me, well, I'm just here. I knew it, Nastyuka. You've got no guts. You're my little good girl, and good girls don't do crazy things. But don't worry, I like you just the way you are. He should have kept his mouth shut. In moments like this, the opposite of that good girl inside me always wakes up. I wanted to spit in his face and show him what kind of girl I really am. I mean, after all, I came just from someone's voice. Whether it was Lily influencing me, or if there really was a mischievous streak inside me, I managed to hold back that side of me only through sheer willpower. I love him, after all, and ruining his interview would be low. All right, here I go. Wish me luck. And without waiting for that luck, he hung up. I couldn't even focus on studying. I should have, considering I missed a lecture and needed to catch up, but I couldn't calm down. After about 5 minutes, I realized I was still sitting there, gripping my phone tightly. I still had the urge to tell Igor what I did last night, to prove it to him, to soothe my own ego. Who knows? He wasn't just anybody to me. He was someone very close, and I wanted everything to go well for him today. Let him get that job and close another chapter in his life. He'll work, be happy, and maybe we can move to the next level. Although in moments like these, I didn't feel like I wanted anything at all. But this feeling would pass, and then I'd love him very, very much again. I tried to focus on my notes. Studying came relatively easy to me. I understood the subject, but I wasn't particularly passionate about it. To put it simply, I ended up where my high school exam scores could take me. I studied well enough, but I wasn't eligible for any honors. That was fine by me, though. After all, Igor helped out. Not with money, but I was always fed. Plus, my part-time job at an event agency brought in decent income. However, my boyfriend couldn't stand it when I worked as a hostess or stood in the middle of a store helping people sample local ham. But I didn't like wearing rags or working on an ancient computer either, so this unstable but occasional income was very much needed, despite Igor's objections. I had no idea what I wanted to be after college, so I tried not to worry too much ahead of time. Finally, I managed to cool down and focus. I started writing out my notes, and the words flowed smoothly onto the page. In a way, it felt like meditation for me. I didn't pay much attention to the meaning, as this was a throwaway subject, just something to get through. I didn't even notice how time flew by until the phone rang again. I jumped. I looked at the screen and saw our picture with Igor. He had the same one as his wallpaper. We were so happy and beautiful there, at a friend's wedding. I exhaled. I just hoped he got that job. Otherwise, he had a tendency to take his bad moods out on me. It had happened more than once. Nevertheless, I answered, "Yes? Nastyuka, get ready. We're going out tonight to celebrate my new job." I smiled broadly and exhaled again, genuinely happy for him. Judging by his voice, he was excited and overjoyed. I automatically started thinking about what I should wear. "You must have a beautiful and full chest, Freckles." Potap's voice suddenly popped into my head so unexpectedly, so disarmingly, that I almost dropped my phone. My heart began to race like crazy. Why on earth did I even remember him? Panic washed over me. Meanwhile, Igor kept talking about something. Can you believe it? As soon as he saw our photo, he was like, "You've got a good girlfriend." So I didn't miss a beat and told him, "She's my fiancée and everything." Let him think I'm a serious family man. So yeah, consider yourself my lucky charm. They've got a company event coming up soon, so I'll dress you up, and you'll pretend to be my fiancée for real. His words cut into my heart so deeply that I even forgot about Potap for a moment. Pretend? Is he serious right now? We've been together for over a year, and he couldn't have phrased it differently. But Igor was too caught up in his excitement and completely missed my reaction, as usual. It almost drove me to despair. He hung up, and once again, I found myself gripping my phone in anger. Pretend! Pretend! I wanted to break something. But then I realized there was a more interesting option when I saw Potap's message pop up on the app. "How are you, Freckles?"
Chapter 13. Being late was never my thing. I hated it. I thought of people who allowed themselves such behavior as unprofessional. Of course, that didn't mean life didn't throw surprises your way. But everyone always understood that. Today, I had a bit of an emergency myself, and it angered me almost as much as not knowing what to do about my new acquaintance with Freckles. It also pissed me off that I was even planning to do something about it. Why do I even care? At work, the security looked at me warily, like they'd seen a ghost. Yeah, wearing sunglasses in cloudy weather. The secretary was wide-eyed at my swollen face, waiting for instructions, while some slick guy in a trendy fitted suit was grinning with an expression like he already belonged here. This candidate was hard to miss. Just one look at the guy, and I knew I'd made a mistake scheduling a personal interview for this position. I'd seen enough of these types in clubs. Sergey used to call them pretty boys. Groomed, fashionable, muscular, but I'd bet anything he was a heavy drinker. A potential candidate to ruin every female in sight. No thanks. I felt like dismissing him without even listening. I was pretty good at reading people. That's probably why I got hooked on Freckles. That girl had really gotten under my skin. So much so that even Sergey, after I told him a bit, summed it up with, "Oh, Potap, you're in deep." And now, because of this deep situation, I was ready to lash out at the conveniently available candidate. All because yesterday's meeting made me act less than professional. The lateness, the urge to turn away this pretty boy who, with his smile, was driving me to the edge of mild rage. How low I'd fallen. So I just nodded to this Igor. I'd handle it smoothly. After all, I had already missed 3 or 4 meetings, and my schedule was utterly screwed. At least I could blow off some steam. As soon as I walked in, I was greeted with a refreshing coffee. And strangely enough, broth? The secretary blushed and nodded. I'd give her a bonus. But the bonus was one thing. I still couldn't afford to lose my authoritative demeanor. A teaching moment and all that. Thanks. Call in the candidate in 10 minutes. I figured that'd give me enough time to finish this wonderful broth. If she weren't married, I might have considered... No, never mind. I never mix business with personal matters. Never. The hot broth was a blessing, and then came the coffee. Pure bliss, and it even tempered my bloodlust a bit. I even thought I wouldn't be too harsh. Strictly professional feedback with all the necessary pointers. He walked in confidently, with a somewhat cocky swagger, like he was the coolest guy in town. Smiled and introduced himself enthusiastically. Igor. I shook his hand, responding with a stern look. I realized we probably weren't that far apart in age. I hadn't even looked at his resume. That, by the way, was unprofessional. But it did teach me a valuable lesson. Delegate more. So, Igor, let's get started. I spread out his documents in front of me, hoping that smug smile wasn't directed at my appearance. He wasn't mature enough to roll his eyes just yet. He started talking. First about his education, then some accomplishments and other highlights of life. I was bored almost immediately. As I suspected, there was little to no work ethic there, just showmanship. I'm also very serious, goal-oriented. I work out. Here's a picture of our hockey team. He actually handed me his phone. I felt like laughing out loud. Was this his trump card or something? Was he feeling all right? Or maybe this was his first interview. But at some point, as he scrolled through the pictures, I saw her. Freckles. I froze. More photos flashed by in front of me, but I didn't see anything else. I cautiously asked, "And the girl? Your sister?" He seemed to snap out of it. He gave me a dumbfounded look, clearly trying to remember what photo he'd shown. Then he pulled the phone back, fiddling with it. His face showed all his emotions: confusion, realization, and then he lit up. He tapped a couple of times and proudly displayed the phone screen again. This time, it wasn't some car I'd noticed 5 minutes earlier, but that very photo. I could see Freckles in all her glory. He was hugging her, and she was glowing with happiness. Soft, beautiful, and just as feminine as during our video call session. Oh, that's my fiancée, Nastya. I wondered if Freckles, Nastya, knew she'd been promoted to fiancée. I hungrily examined the photo, knowing it was inappropriate. But my brain refused to process the information correctly, refused to react appropriately. For the first time in my life, my hunter instinct kicked in. To take, to mark, to claim what should be mine. I looked at Igor again and did, probably, the stupidest thing in my life. Congratulations, Igor. You're hired. Start tomorrow. And one more thing. I hesitated. I was excellent at achieving my goals, better than anyone. And when had Nastya turned into that goal? I didn't even realize. But now, the word no didn't exist for me. And get ready with your fiancé. We've got a company party coming up. Oh, the employees will be surprised, especially HR, who'll be organizing it. But I'm sure I'll be in for a very pleasant surprise myself at the party. Chapter 14. In front of me, a strict and incredibly angry boss, stood two IT guys who had screwed up. Hanging their heads, they were probably thinking I was about to flay them alive. Literally. People liked working for me, but my management style often knocked down the rose-colored glasses. However, I was ready to surprise them this time, so I simply said, "Clear out the office, hand over the account keys, and I'll pretend I didn't see what I saw. I don't think I need to remind you that this is your last chance." The guys snapped their heads up and nodded in relief, like those Chinese bobbleheads. Intimidated, but they deserved it. The last time I showed any weakness was about 15 minutes ago, when I hired a self-obsessed idiot just to get to his girlfriend. So I've had enough. Now it's all by the book. The guys scrambled. Slavik immediately rushed to the desk to write down the passwords and codes. For the account. On a virtual sex site. How low you've fallen, Strelnikov. Nevertheless, I had already done it. I was knee-deep in this mess, as Sergei would have put it. Meanwhile, Amalia brought me my third cup of coffee. I was slowly coming back to life. Calm, predatory, confident. I should have taken a break and thought things through, but I knew that if I did, I would naturally come to the right conclusions. Here's all the data, Potap Markovich. Look, password, access, a code for dual access to the camera and microphone. Everything's integrated. Here's the catalog of girls with their details. I almost choked on my coffee. If it weren't for these guys' skills, after that sentence, I'd be looking for at least 2 new IT specialists. In a stern voice, I said, "What catalog?" The guys realized this was unnecessary information, but the Google spreadsheet was already up on the tablet with all, the data. Not only was this blatantly illegal, but in such quantities, it was practically a virtual brothel. Delete it. Are you not making enough money? Hire some prostitutes if you have to. But what is this? I couldn't even find the right words. Fine. Maybe I was involved in this, but that's different. And the girl, clearly, wasn't one of those. And I'm not one of those either. Not the point. The guys were practically on the verge of tears. We've been collecting this data for a whole year. Slavik trailed off under the glare of the second guy, the smarter one, the one who handled life situations better. He nudged his colleague, and they both fell silent. A whole year. That's something, but... So you're telling me that for an entire year you've been doing inappropriate things in my office? I lost control on the last word, raising my voice in frustration. Just then, my secretary walked in. Poor Amalia. Her world was once again tested today. It was getting worse by the hour. The secretary gave the guys a look that made it clear I was having a bad influence on her. Though, depending on how you look at it, maybe not. Because she wasn't in a hurry to leave. But this wasn't a circus show, so I sent her off with just a glance. I, Potap Markovich, please don't fire me. The guys were bickering for real now, while I pondered what punishment to give them. My hungover imagination wasn't at its peak, so I just replied, I'll figure out what to do with you later. In the future. Although, what future? I'm not your sex ed teacher or a corporate ethics lecturer. Just tell me where you found that last girl. Judging by the looks on their faces, they were breathing a sigh of relief every time the conversation veered toward my little weakness. But showing weakness in front of employees was unacceptable. The main thing for now was to get information. We monitor. When a new clean account appears, we immediately check where it leads. Because sometimes you get ones like that. Slavic was turning pale, then blushing. Yeah, ones like that. Innocent looking, showing off their breasts when no one's watching. Though I admit, the function is cool. Virtually everything can look great, but in real life, who knows who's sitting there? Hopefully a girl at least. Ugh, what am I even talking about? Well, we'll go now. There's a project on fire. Go, but you're under special watch now. They exchanged glances and slumped. That's right, they've gotten too relaxed. If I wasn't such a workaholic, they'd have covered all the walls with their experiments. Or worse, they'd get caught in their activities by some saintly naivete. Though judging by the list in the spreadsheet with the descriptions, the only naive one there was Freckles. How did she even end up on the site? And with a boyfriend, no less. That girl was full of surprises, and I wanted to figure them out. So, as soon as my perverted slackers left the office, I immediately downloaded the app, offending my phone in the process. And I logged into the account.
The mobile version was simpler, but there was something like a social network here. I could only hope that Freckles hadn't given in to the urge to erase last night from memory entirely. After all, I had tried. I spun the phone in my hand like I was 18 again, about to ask Dasha from the second year on a date. All my experience with texting was limited to business correspondence. Karina and I mostly called each other, and other than that, I had no reason. Oh yeah, I also gave orders in the work chat, but I doubt that's the kind of communication that works here. Might as well call Sergey for advice. What do they even talk about nowadays? What do they ask each other? Then I paused and tried to imagine what Freckles thought of all this. I thought about it. Then I just typed the first thing that came to mind in this context. How are you, Freckles? I didn't expect a quick reply. This app didn't have upgrades like read or even delivered, so all I could do was hope it was at least sent. But imagine my surprise when just a couple of minutes later I got a response. Thanks for last night, but we shouldn't talk anymore.
Chapter 15. Thanks for last night, but we shouldn't talk anymore. What else was I supposed to write? Honestly, it would have been better not to respond at all. Whatever Igor and I have going on right now, it will pass, but the unpleasant aftertaste will linger. Besides, it's just not right. But I couldn't leave it without a reply. I smirked to myself and muttered under my breath, after what happened between us. Sure, he's not obliged to marry me after something like that, But he could at least ask how I'm doing, so staying silent in this situation would be rude. And since I was a well-mannered girl, I decided not to ghost Potap. But I wasn't expecting him to follow up with, "It's a pity. You really helped me out yesterday. I've never done anything like that before, and I needed the support." I almost dropped my hastily made sandwich. Support? Helped out? Me? But Igor always said that I was utterly useless when it came to helping, let alone saving anyone. He even made a point never to ask for anything, always saying something like, "It'll all turn out messed up anyway." That really hurt, especially since I was the main helper around the house since childhood. Sure, I wasn't perfect, but still. If you ever feel like chatting, just let me know. I'll always be happy to hear from you. You have such a melodic voice. That's when a little worm of doubt started to wriggle inside me. I helped someone out, and he's offering to just chat? Meanwhile, I'm all proud, about to shut down the whole thing. Wouldn't that be rude? I started to think. The familiar hurt from Igor, along with the sudden spark of warmth inside me, made me realize I wasn't quite done here. My hands itched to reply, and before I knew it, I had typed, "Potap, I'd love to keep in touch, but honestly, I'm feeling a little off about it." I held my breath. Chatting with a stranger, without fear of being exposed, was kind of fun. I could just write the truth. No hiding, no acting like I was some snobby girl or a wise, experienced woman. I feel the same, but I gathered the courage to write. Though it's a bit embarrassing, I'm shy. He replied. This guy, with a voice like a porn actor, was slowly but surely winning me over. My mom always told me I was too sympathetic. Igor said I was too trusting. Basically, everyone around me tried to teach me something. But here's this stranger who... I blushed deeply again. Someone who managed to touch parts of my soul. And yes, parts of my body too, let's be honest. Plus, he's saying exactly what I'm feeling. I'm shy too. Let's be shy together. Sorry for asking. I know it's easier to do this here, but maybe we could chat a little. What happened yesterday was unexpectedly cool. I was terrified of hearing that one word, repeat, but it didn't come. If it had, I would have definitely bailed. Is there a block button in this app? The app itself was quite basic, but you could still communicate in text. Freckles, let's just chat for a bit. I'm going through a tough time in life right now, and I'd like a distraction. No strings attached, completely anonymous. Let this conversation be our little escape and secret. Conversations with my friend immediately flashed through my mind. How awkward it was to discuss such things. How uncomfortable I felt when she later brought them up, making me blush. Ugh. And then, a completely crazy, impossibly wrong thought popped into my head. What if I could actually learn something about men from Potap? What if I could pick up some tips and fix things with Igor? Was I ready to take that risk? On one hand, it seemed so cynical. I mean, what kind of girl discusses intimate things with another man? How does that even work? But I realized it's quite possible. If I want to save this relationship, I do want that, right? What do they say? All's fair in love and war? I made up my mind. In the end, it's the right thing to do. Besides, it's just texting. I'm not going to do anything virtual with him again. You know, that kind of thing. All right, let's give it a try. But without that other context. Just chatting. Just chatting. Got it. What are you doing right now? Got it. Has he been watching too many movies? Sometimes his tone shifts oddly. He'll be all sweet and then got it. How old is he anyway? His profile says he's 26. And I almost wanted to reply, thinking of ways to get back at my boyfriend. But, actually, I looked at my phone screen as if I was seeing it for the first time. I really could write that. Why not? He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my boyfriend. Maybe Potap could become like a secret girlfriend, helping me with these sensitive issues. Honestly, I'm sitting here, mad at my boyfriend. Sent. I held my breath and even closed my eyes. After virtual sex, this was the second scariest thing I'd done in my life. At least this year. Would he respond or not? After all, not everyone would agree to be a shoulder to cry on for a random girl they recently had virtual sex with. As if confirming my thoughts, my phone stayed silent. I was already imagining with a bitter smile how Potap had ghosted me when... Freckles, I knew a girl like you could be single, but I didn't expect such honesty. Care to share the details? I exhaled and suddenly felt a strange warmth in my chest. Maybe this experiment will lead to something after all.